How many girls watch a week? How many people watch, you know?
Sometimes it comes up to like 100 online.
Live?
And live, it's like 3, maybe 3
What's online later?
later.
These
Right,
classes
right
stay
now.
on forever? They're not
No.
edited classes, huh?
No, it's on the Facebook. It's on the Facebook. But it's like you have to be in the page. Took several steps there.
I edit my stuff, okay. Okay. But it stays on between the classes also. It stays on.
Mhm. Yeah. Really know that, yeah.
Okay, everybody have a copy, yes? Yes, let's go.
No, can I have my copy, please? I gave it to you last week.
You have no notes, right? It's just a copy.
I have notes, but no copy because it's on my
They're on the page.
Thank you.
You said my copy, any copy.
Oh, yeah, no, sorry, yeah. That's fine.
Okay. So I'm sorry I'm so early. I'm only 20 minutes late. I apologize for not being my regular self. I should try to get it by, I put it down, it takes time to down. Gotta get it by 10:40 and then get it. Okay, now wait a second, Kinderlach. What we're doing is this chunk of Siris, this sub part of our big picture is about Friday, the 5th of Sivan. Friday, the 5th of Sivan, which is the day before Hashem gave the Jewish people the Torah. The Jewish people were converted collectively. Now, the first sikha we learned about that day is explaining why it's in a different parsha, why it's in Parshas Mishpatim. And the answer was because Matan Torah is divided into 2 discussions that are not chronological, but thematic, right? Parshas Yisrei speaks about everything connected to Hashem giving us the Torah, and Parshas Mishpatim thinks about everything about taking the Torah. So Monday, the 1st of Sivan, Tuesday, the 2nd of Sivan, and most of Thursday or part of Thursday, the 4th of Sivan, is in Parshas Yisrei. Then the end of the day or the latter part of the day of Thursday, the 4th of Sivan, and all of Friday, the 5th of Sivan, and even some parts of Shabbos, the 6th of Sivan, or even Sunday, the 7th of Sivan, are in Parshas Mishpatim. And then you go back to Yisrei, Shabbos, the 6th of Sivan, when Hashem gave us the Torah. Because the 2 parshas are divided by topic. Parshas Yisrei is Hashem giving, and Parshas Mishpatim is us accepting. And one of the components of that acceptance is our formal conversion to the Jewish nation. As we will see, and I realize now that there's a sikha that we're going to learn next, which in some way you should have learned before, but I think you did the right thing in the sequence. Part of my job is to decide what to teach and what not to teach, which is not so easy because there's a lot of sikhas. Another part of my job is once I decide what to teach, I have to decide which one to teach first and which one to teach second. In this particular case, I'm having a very difficult time pinning down how to order the sikhas. I think there's 4 of them or 5 of them, all connected to the 5th of Sivan, to the 6th of Sivan. But the sikha we're going to learn after this one, or that's where at least I'm planning it right now. I may change my mind. Is going to add another point. Okay, the conversion of the Jewish people actually has 4 parts. The actual conversion is Nasa v'Nishma. Is the acceptance we will do and we will hear. The Rambam doesn't even mention it, right? If you look at the very first paragraph of our sikha, okay, the very first paragraph of sikha, it says the underline, please. With 3 things the Jewish people entered into the covenant, with circumcision, with immersion in a mikvah, and with a carbon. So the Rebbe says in the Sikha, which we're going to learn after, that these 3 things are not the Geiros, they're the mitzvahs around the Geiros. The Geiros itself is accepting mitzvahs. And you're going to see this in Mitzvah Hashem, like I said, if my client Ravina is there right now, in the Sikha we're going to learn next. So the first idea is the event of conversion, the phenomena of conversion, the idea of conversion. And the idea of conversion is, I will do and I will hear. Commitment to be a Yid, and again, the magic words are Kabbalah sale, to accept the yoke of heaven and not question it. Or only do things that we understand and agree with. And then there are three more things. But as we are learning in the current Sikha, those three more things are also divided into two groupings. Numbers 2 and 3 would be the bris milah and the mikveh. Going to the mikveh and circumcision makes you a Jew when it accompanies the acceptance of mitzvahs. So you accept the mitzvahs. I mean, the order practically is you first do the bris, then you heal for the bris. And then you go to the mikveh, and in the mikveh you say Nasa v'nishma. That's how it's done. Which is why it's an uncomfortable process. Yeah.
What's 3? Mikvah?
In terms of what we do, or in terms of what's important?
In terms of what the Torah speaks about in, like, what's the third one? The first one is go to the mikvah and say Nasa v'mishna.
No. Okay. In terms of importance, the first thing is Nasa v'nishma. That makes you a Jew.
Okay.
The next two are together, bris milah and tefillah. And the last one is going to be a carbon. I'll get to that in a moment. Okay.
And tefillah.
But practically, tefillah means going to the mikveh. Practically, what happens is first you do the bris, then you have to heal from the bris, and after you heal from the bris, you go to the mikveh, and in the mikveh you accept mitzvahs. In the mikveh you say, I'm going to keep all the mitzvahs.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So, but that's the practical order. The philosophical order is that conversion is a committing to be a Jew with Kabbalah sale. There's 613 mitzvahs. I'm not taking 612 of them. I'm taking all 613, and I'm going to practice them all. I'm going to embrace them all and believe they all come from Hashem, whether I understand them or I don't understand them, whether I agree with them or I don't agree with them, whether they sit well with me or they don't sit well. That's a Yid. You keep all the mitzvahs. But the acceptance of mitzvahs has 3 rituals that flank it, that go along with it. 3 things make the bris happen. The bris is the Nasa v'nishma. The covenant is the Nasa v'nishma. And there are 3 things that accompany that covenant. But what this Sikha is teaching us is that those 3 things are also in 2 groupings. Group number 1 is the mikveh and the bris milah. Without them, you're not a Yid. And group number 2 is the covenant. And the Rambam paskins that after Mashiach comes, every Gered Tzedek in the entire history of the world, since unless they became gated in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, is going to have to bring a sacrifice. And somehow, even though every Gered Tzedek is the Eibush going to sacrifice, it doesn't diminish the Gedus, the conversion before Mashiach comes. And this Sikha is addressing this point. How could the Gedus need something more and yet the Gedus not be lacking anything? That's the question. And the Rebbe did something very, very unusual. Which was what? Does anybody remember? I'm not going to expect you to know this. He argued with his teacher. He argued with the Rabbi Paltiel. God. We never loved and revered. The Rabbi Paltiel God says that you're a Jew for everything except for Kabbalas. And the Rebbe said, can't say that. You're a Jew for everything. But there's Arya the Revi'ah, remember the expression? There's a lion that's crouched down that's not letting you go into it. It's not like you're not Jewish for Karbanos. You're Jewish for Karbanos, but there's a blocking at the door that doesn't let you through because you haven't brought your Karban of Gedus. So the Rabbi Paltiel says that there's a deficiency in the Gedus when it comes to Kachim. And the Rebbe says that you can't say there's a deficiency in the Gedus. You can only say that you're 100% a Yid, but you're being blocked. Just like a person who's tummy is blocked for entering the Beis Hamikdash. Just like a person who's Mechusek, right? The person became tummy. A woman has a baby, for example. But there's a certain tumas that come out of the body. What tumas come out of the body? Zav and Zava, Nida and Balkeri, right? For a man and for a woman, each one have 2. One is natural and one is considered an illness. For all 4 of those, you become tummy. And a woman having a baby is considered a nidus, which is a natural form of bleeding, which is associated with the tumah. And then, of course, there's tzaras. All of these tumas, the tumah comes out of your body, in many ways is considered worse than tumah smeis. The tumah from touching a dead body. that after you count the time you have to count, and you go to the mikveh, and you wait for the sun to set, you cannot go into the Beis Hamikdash until you bring a carbon. This is not a carbon for an Aveda, it's a carbon for a Tumah. And after you toivel, and the sun set, and after you toivel, you call it Tul Yain. You toivel, you have to wait for the sun to set, and you can't eat Truma. Once the sun sets, you're allowed to eat Truma, but you can't go into the Beis Hamikdash, so the next day you bring Teigel Ben Yedi. You have to bring the Chinim, it's called, there's different ways of doing it. You have to bring a carbon that completely heals the tar. Now, that carbon, that carbon doesn't mean you're Tomei, that carbon means you can't go to the Beis Hamikdash. At least that's how I'm understanding it for this class. A Ger Tzedek, who's missing his carbon, is 100% Jewish, but there's something preventing him from going into the Beis Hamikdash until he brings this carbon. That's the Rebbe's approach, okay? So to summarize the summary, okay, and then I'll summarize the summary of the summary if everything is normal, situation normal. The most basic idea of the Gatus itself, the conversion itself, the covenant itself, is the commitment to keep Torah mitzvahs. The two mitzvahs that must accompany the Gatus, without which the Gatus doesn't happen, is going to the mikveh and doing a bris milah. And the part of the Gatus which you have to complete, but there's nothing at all wrong with the Gatus without it, is the carbon. Go ahead.
But then, what happens if in your lineage a few years back someone converted and you don't know? You need to say, like, what will happen to the descendants of this years?
You got to assume that Mashiach's going to be a prophet, or there'll be prophets around. A lot of these things are going to be B'derech Nebuah.
Makes sense.
There's no way of us being able to determine the Gatus. But you should know that works to the advantage of the person. It's a very interesting halacha. It's a different type. It's weird because there's extremes about this. There's the Deiraisis that are very lenient, and there's the Rabbanos that are very strict. But the Nakuda is that if a goy, a red-blooded 100% goy, lives amongst Jews, and over the course of a number of generations, he forgot that he's a goy, and his descendants truly believe they're Jewish 100%, and they don't need gear. And if a Navi were to come along and say, you know, this guy's a goy, the Rambam speaks about not to push away those who came close with force, not to bring close those who were pushed away with force. There's a famous Mishnah, it's a Rambam, that brings a bunch of shittas, that Mishpacha Shenitma, a family that became similar to the Jewish people, is a Jew. And the best, of course, the most prominent example, a person is a mamzer. Mamzer is not allowed to marry. If the mamzer is forgotten over time. Now, a Suffolk mamzer is extreme, but the rights it's not a problem. But the Rabbanon, you can't even marry a mamzer. But if the mamzer is forgotten, he's a Jew. Finished. And we don't dig it up. Even when Mashiach is going to come, and it says in Rambam Befedish that he's going to use nevuah to determine yichus. He's going to use prophecy to tell you which shevet you belong to, but it's going to be the positive side, not the negative side. He's going to raise you up to the status of Kohen or Levi or Yisrael, and which shevet you belong to. But if you don't belong to any shevet, we're just going to assume that you're a Jew and you're a Gad. No one's going to start questioning your mamzeris and the other kinds of pagonim and so on. Anyway, that's the answer to your question, if I understand it correctly. I'm not an expert on the subject, but that's how I see it. So the question is this: how can a person be 100% Gad and yet still miss something that's Gad? That's what the halacha is. 100% Gad, there's nothing whatsoever wrong with the Gadus, but he's missing a carbon. How could both of those things be true? That's the question that's really outstanding in the scene. And the Rebbe is going to answer the question. Okay? Now, it's such a Hasidic answer, I don't even know how it's nigla. But the Rebbe is giving you a nigla answer. In other words, the answer that the Rebbe gives is so in the wheelhouse of Chassidus. But he's really answering the question on yeshivish terms, on scholastic Talmudic terms. But it's one of those places where the yeshivish answer is pure Chassidus. And I will now tell you the point. I talked about this last week. I mean, you have to understand, this morning, I got up late for whatever reasons, but one of the few things I did was look at the class I gave you last week. And we're holding on page 164. We're gonna start again from Sif Vav. I already told you this, but I'm gonna repeat it now, and then I'm gonna read it, okay? Being a Jew has two parts. Being a Jew in your essence and being a Jew in your manifestation. The more important aspect of that is being a Jew in your essence. And that's accomplished through Bris Milah and going to the mikveh. Being a Jew in your manifestation needs a korban. And karbonis and being a Jew in your manifestation are really not such a big deal in the times of Golus. They're only a big deal in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. That's why until Mashiach comes, you're not missing anything, and yet when Mashiach comes, you're gonna have to bring a korban. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how much of this did I talk about last week? I need to know before I start going into a spiel. Did I talk about it late or just on the quarter? And I spoke to you about the Chassan Maimer. I did. I talked to you about the Maimer of the wedding. And I told you that it says in the wedding Maimer that when you wake up in the morning, the neshama is only in your nostrils. And this is meaning to say that the neshama is only in the level of Yechidah. And the whole idea of davening is to bring it down. It should be arranged in your whole body. The first idea, having the neshama in your nose, that's the essence of being a Jew. The neshama coming down into your whole body, that's the manifestation of being a Jew. And the gate is missing the second idea. And the first idea is perfect. And the second idea that I was going to show that even Yidden who are not Gadim don't really have in the times of Golus. So the Gate is missing the manifest of his Judaism, but as is the Miyuchas, the Yid who comes from Yidden all the way back to Yaakov Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Avraham Avinu also is missing that idea. Okay? So if you don't have any questions, here is my plan. I want to read Sivov right now. And when I finish Sivov, I'm going to give you a shtickle philosophy. I'm going to explain to you this based on my model of the Rebbe. But I'm just going to throw this out now for fun. I knew a man in a wheelchair. He had polio as a child. And he was a very interesting person. When people have that kind of disability, could those girls like move away from our window, you think?
It's their first day. Let's just let them.
I know, but you're looking at him.
Okay, I won't look at them.
We don't look at them.
She's looking at him.
No. Okay, yeah. So man, polio, wheelchair. carry
Okay,
on.
good. So when a person with that kind of disability, it defines, it becomes your life. But wow, the biggest things that happen in your life become you, for better and for worse. You know, there's always an upside and a downside. People have great trauma and so on and so forth. The experiences of your life define you. And he is very much defined by his polio. And he had it as a 6-year-old child. So, which is usually when people get polio. So he developed a philosophy of dealing with his illness. And I suspect that he developed this philosophy when he was quite young. In other words, had he made this philosophy as an adult, he probably would have had a little bit of a different philosophy. But this is his philosophy. His philosophy was, I'm not sick. I'm just different healthy. I am not a person with missing legs. I am a creature without legs. That was his idea. And he would, any person he'd meet, he would start a conversation, and then he'd talk to you until you wished you hadn't met him.
Why?
Because he didn't stop. And he would explain to you his philosophy to argue and convince you that there's nothing wrong with him, and you have to agree with him. If Chas v'Shalom, you would disagree with him, the cows would have come home. This is how he dealt with his illness. I knew this man quite well. I actually learned from him for a while. Thou shalt not judge. If it ever applies, it applies here. You know, is it right or wrong? The answer to the question, that's his experience. And that's the way he chose to deal with his illness. He can't hold, this is what he did, this is how he dealt with it. On the other hand, I know people, I've known people, girls in this class over the last 35 years, who have told me that disability makes them feel disadvantaged in a way that they feel that God has wronged them. Especially when you become from, and you learn in the Torah that a kohen who's a Baal Mum, a kohen who's blemished, is not allowed to serve in the Beis HaMikdash, and things of this sort. So then it becomes very personal. If you're a man and you're a kohen and you have a mangled hand, or you limp, or you can't see out of one eye, or your body is disfigured in some way, and you know Mashiach's going to come and not going to let you serve because of your disability, that's very upsetting. What's wrong with me? Why? What's wrong with me? So, one person says, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm just healthy different. Another person says, I'm a victim. Now, what is the truth? So you must, of course, understand, and I think you do, that in general, when it comes to personal human experiences, the way you feel is the way it is. It's true. It's your truth. The most important thing in this life, forgive me for speaking this way because it's not how I normally talk. The most important thing in this life is to get through it, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes a person to live, get up every day and go to work and love the people closest to him and allow himself to be loved by the people closest to him, develop close relationships and to do a little kindness. That's the story. As a chassid, as a believer and as a Jew and as a chassid, you would have to add that you got to do all of that with positivity, which is kind of difficult if you can't see, chas v'shalom, or if you can't walk. Especially if you were born healthy. You know the story when they visited the Rebbe, the Special Olympics, the Paralympics. So the Paralympians in Israel, who were all wounded in the Yom Kippur War, the 6 Day War, over 100 men came to 770 in 1977. They met the Rebbe came downstairs, spoke to them in Hebrew, and then uncharacteristically, instead of them lining up and getting a dollar from the Rebbe, they went off the stage. He went over to each one. They were sitting and he was standing. He shook their hand. And he said, thank you for their service. And he gave them a dollar. The Rebbe spoke to them. And the talk that the Rebbe gave them was it wasn't patronizing, it wasn't pitying, but it was very enlightening. They felt understood. People who are very healthy, probably because of the war, can't see, can't walk. The likelihood for depression is extraordinary. The likelihood to not want to live, and people pity you, and they don't know what to do with you, and they make promises and they don't keep them. That's how it works. People, I'll never abandon you. Really, you'll never abandon me? I don't believe it. The Rebbe gave them what is the correct philosophy. It's a Torah philosophy, and I am going to explain to you the Rebbe's philosophy after we learn this Sif, because that philosophy of the Rebbe is direct Hasidus. The Pedic we're about to learn is Nigla. I just threw this out as a hook, as a titillation, as a provocation, that this is the direction that we're going in. And we're going to be discussing the idea that Hashem made some people whole and some people not whole. And the way it's going to play out in Gados is the carbon makes you whole. Without the carbon, you're Jewish, but you're not whole. And in times of Golos grows, the maximum number of mitzvahs a Jew can keep is 86. Mitzvahs, I say 86, about 1/3, a little more than 1/3. It says in Hilchos Kislev, Mitzvah brings it in my morning. I understand, I never saw it, but the Chafetz Chaim. So America has a sefer where he lists the mitzvahs. In other words, 2/3 of the mitzvahs you can't keep. You know what that's like? If you have 248 limbs, like each limb corresponds to one mitzvah, 2/3 of your body parts don't work. I put it mystically. You get it? That's where the carbon comes in. So, unless you have any questions or comments, let's go to the text, okay? Please. Davai. The Hasbara in the Mechiluk. So, you're new, right? So, here's how it works. I read only the underline. If you follow underline, you won't get lost. If your eyes wander away, you'll never find your way back, okay? Follow the underline. I mean, we're reading most of Sif Vav anyway, but I'm going to, the words that I did not underline, I'm going to skip.
We're in Chiluk Vav.
Page 160, the beginning. We're starting from the beginning. 164, bottom of the first column. The Hasbara in the Mechiluk, the explanation for the difference. Tvishen Milo, Tvilo. On the one hand, the circumcision and the immersion in the mikveh, undem carbon, and on the other hand, the sacrifice. As dafke, milo, tvilo, seinen machnes dem Gelabit, that dafke is emphatically the circumcision and the immersion of the mikveh bring you into the bris. Now, the language machnes is very, very important because the connotation of the word bring you into the bris is that they're not even the bris. The bris is a fourth thing. The bris is the nasa v'nishma. The bris is we will do and we'll hear, as I will explain to you in the next class. Okay, but the we will do and we will hear does not have teeth is not considered religiously satisfactory if it doesn't come along with circumcision and with the titling and the mikveh. On the other hand, Masha ain't in them korban, as opposed to the sacrifice which every ger tzedek needs to bring, is not making you into a ger, but it's hasodas aliyah shebechutz. It's removing a life, which is a blockage between you and your access to the Beis Hamikdash. Davar bechutz, an extraneous thing, shema'akev, which holds you back. As I told you in the introduction today, according to these siches, the Rebbe is going to develop a philosophy of Geirus, which is going to have three levels. The most important level is the commitment to be a Jew. The second most important level is the rituals that fortify that commitment, which is the bris, the circumcision, and the immersion in the mikvah. And the final level that makes you a Jew in a healthy way. That's the korban. And without that korban, you're missing that health. But there's something wrong with your Jewishness. There's something with the manifestation of your Jewishness. And the Rebbe explained. You with me? In them was eine, in this idea that somebody, velet durch Geirus, becomes through conversion, a Jew. And of course, you all know the famous philosophy. I want you to know. Last week, when I prepared this class last week, and I taught it, I was really excited. I'm still very excited. I love the sikh. So when I got home, I sent a message to my family members. I want more sikhs and Geirus. I want more sikhs. It's good. It's. If I'm ever going to get a time to give a series of classes on Geirus, it should be now. Because that's what happened. Erev Shavuos, Erev the day that Hashem gave us the Torah, we were collectively converted. It says that Rebbe's, and what I wanted to say is that if Rebbe brings in 100 sikhs, the source of it is from the Chidah, who lived around the times of the Alter Rebbe. The Lashon HaGemara is Geir Shenes Gaya, a convert who converted. When a child grows up, you say Kotn Shenes Gadol, a boy, a young man, a young person became one. So the Chidah asks, or Evet Shenes Tachel, a slave who was freed. So the Chidah asks, you should say Goy Shenes Gaya. Just like I say a slave who was freed and a child who grew up, you should say a guy who became a Jew. Why do you say a convert who converted? So the Chidah answers because anybody who converts, that is a proof that he had a Jewish neshama before the conversion. That's a Chidah. And there's also Baal Shem Tov, with more details, which are even stronger. But the Chidah says that a person who goes through conversion, that's proof that they had a Yiddish neshama from before. And the essence of the covenant, the essence of the conversion is to accept mitzvahs, and it's accompanied by bris milah and mikvah. Okay, and he explains that if I'm saying there's two parts to becoming a Jew. Al derech is given by Geirus hakloli for just like on Friday, the 5th of Sivan, the year 2448, the entire nation of Israel, we were all, each one of us, our ancestors, and of course the most important thing is our mothers, were converted. The same is true when any other person chooses to join the Jewish people of the identical process of conversion, and it has two parts. Not two parts of the conversion, two parts of the Knisa. We're going into the conversion. The conversion is Nasa V'Nishma. Aleph. I'm going to bring you to me. V'yisem Segula, and you're going to be a treasure, we call Am Shmol Nation. Which means in plain English, you're going to be the chosen people. Okay? Is it good or bad to be chosen?
Good.
As he asked, a day a week. I've heard many a Jew say, I wish I wasn't chosen. I've heard many a non-Jew say, I wish I was chosen. So each other.
I had a JS teacher and some like smart, the Jewish studies teacher, and some smart, like clever kid said to was like trying to catch her out that she was like whatever racist or whatever, and said to her like, oh, if you could get rid of one religion, what would you get rid of? And she said Jesus, and then I wouldn't have a conscience.
She's Jewish herself.
Yeah. There's a lot wrong with that, I know.
I had a friend who in one day on Mitzrayim, that's what he told me. He asked two people if they were Jewish, and one said unfortunately yes, and the other one said unfortunately no. Same day.
Mm.
It's just one of those things. Base. So the first thing is being chosen. Base, and then after that, Mamlachas Koyanim, a kingdom of priests, the Goy Kodesh and holy nation. Now, if you look at Rashi, and we learned a whole bunch of sikhs on this. That was Monday, the first of Sivan, which was Tuesday, the second, which was like 2 years ago. We learned a bunch of sikhs on these ideas. But Rashi translates Mamlachas Koyanim means people of prominence. It means powerful people with authority, people trained. What the Rebbe is saying is this: being chosen is an essence. Being influential, being powerful, and being holy is a form. You understand? The first idea that Hashem chose us is our essence, is our yechida. The second thing that we're special, Mamlechas Kohanim, the Gei Kodesh, the kingdom of priests, and the holy nation. These are the details. Or as I put it to you before, it's the manifest of being the Jew. And they're going to be aligned. The first one is going to be aligned. The essence of being a Jew is going to be aligned with the mikveh and the bris milah, with the circumcision and the immersion of the mikveh. And the second one is going to be aligned with the cause. Let's read it. The signin achetas, in other words, there's the etzem fabun, bris, division in the Eibishter. There is the essence of the bond between a person and Hashem. But those that durch them was nichnas of a nefesh hileisha. The essence of the bond forms simply by getting a neshama. When you have a chidush of a nefesh, you have an essence connection with Hashem. Okay? And I want to tell you something interesting, which is just my opinion. There's a minor from the Rebbe. Oh, thank you. Where the Rebbe brings a medrash that Abraham Avinu was looking for the truth. Abraham Avinu was looking for the truth. And he asked anybody with where we come from, what are we? And of course, as the story goes, one of the saddest days of Abraham Avinu's life was the day that he realized that nobody really knows. The reason that was a sad day is because once he realized nobody really knows, he realized that he'd have to figure it out for himself, which is not a fun undertaking. Not fun. You know what I'm saying? A kid said, he searched for God for 40 years, for a very, very long time, a quarter of his life. And he asked himself the question, Klum ha'olam yesh lo manim. Does this world have a governor, somebody in charge? And then the marshal. Marshal, a melech, shenichnas to Medina, king comes into a country, and somebody asked the king, is there in this land a leader? And the king looked at him. And the king told him, with that look, I'm in charge. The expression in the Medrash is, he sits Allah Baal Habilo. The owner of the palace looked in his direction, and in looking in his direction, he told him, you see, I'm here. There's a God. And of course, the way we understand the Medrash is that Avraham Avinu was looking for the truth, and he found the truth when Hashem looked at him. He looked, I'm sure he did a lot of discovery by himself, but so to speak, the coup de grace, the culmination of all of that effort was when the Eibishter looked at the So the Rebbe has a mind there. Where the Rebbe says the word hitzitz means to look. But the word tzitz also means spark. Are you familiar with the clothing of the Kohen Gadol? The Kohen Gadol had 8 garments. One of them is not a garment. It's big and good.
Breastplate.
It's called the tzitz. It's a breastplate on his head, the head plate. Tzitz means a spark. And tzitz means to look, to see. So the Medrash uses the word hitzitz to mean Hashem looked at him. Chassidus said, looked at him, he gave him a spark. And the Rebbe gives a very, very abstract mystical explanation that there's a level which is even higher than the Yechida, which is called nitzutz, same word, boirei. And the way I understand it is the Rebbe is saying, how do you become a Jew? How do you become Jewish? A non-Jew also has a spark of God in him, right? One wild guess What is the proof that a non-Jew has a spark of God in him? Kama. What is the proof that a non-Jew has a spark of God? And the answer is because he exists. Everything has a spark of God. If there's no God in the stone, there's no stone. But he's called klipa. Klipa means he's not in touch with that spark. To be in touch with that spark has to be supercharged. And the supercharging of the spark fact that not only does the spark of God inside of you, the spark inside of you can actually be revealed or actually is revealed. That's the difference between Kedusha and Klipa. Klipa means I have a spark of Hashem and I can't access it. It's blocked from me. Kedusha means I have a spark of God, either it's already revealed or it's potentially. So the Rebbe explained based on this medrash, the way the spark of God in a goy becomes a Jew is when he supercharges it with a spark of God, which is higher than the spark of the Jew. And that's the meaning of the word hitzitz. Hashem gave Abraham Avinu a higher spark than the spark that he already had. And by giving him a higher spark, the spark he already had, the spark that he already had became revealed. The Yechida was able to come out. That's the process. It's a minute. It's a few lines. And this is the way I teach it. I'm sure there's many rabbis who interpret it differently, but that's how I understand those few words. That becoming a Jew is Hashem charging up your spark of Elokus, which is spark of the divine, and it brings that spark forward. And it gives access to your Yechida, to your essence, to your godliness. Okay? And this happens to you when you become a gay. When you go to the mikveh, when you do a bris, when you say Nasa B'nishma, you take mitzvahs, you access the spark of God that every human being has, and you make it possible to access that spark, and then you have a Jewish soul, because you have access to the divine inside yourself. You follow? Mm-hmm. There's only one process, only part. Base number 2, Shini Agav, the whole person changed. Thus was the Nefesh HaKadosh, the fact that the soul which is holy, which has now been revealed in this person through the process of Gedus.
Wait, I have a question about what you just said.
Let me finish the paragraph. It pervades, if you understand Yiddish, it means literally, it takes through, which is like terrible English grammar. It pervades, it fills up the limbs and the faculties of the person and and transforms them. You see the language? There's having God in your nose, having God in your whole body. Having God in your nose makes you a Jew on the essence level. Having God in your whole body makes you a Jew on the manifest level. But if you have the essence of God in your nose, you're 100% a Jew. There's no more to that. Okay? And those are the two ideas. The Hashem shows us is that we have the essence of Hashem inside of ourselves. And Hashem made us special. Is that the essence of Hashem we have inside of ourselves comes down to all aspects of our lives. To our arms, our legs, our fingers, our toes, our hair, our skin, our nails, and so on. Go ahead, talk to me.
So you're saying that it becomes supercharged, the spark of Hashem in every single goy becomes supercharged, you're saying by something higher than a Jew?
Yeah.
So what is it then?
Spark of God. Spark of God.
But I thought Jews have a spark of God.
But
It's
the
different.
question we're talking about, how did Avraham become a Yid? He was born a Goy. Right? How did he become Jewish? The simple answer to the question is because he lived like a Jew. You live like a Jew, you become a Jew. But we know that that's not enough. Well, Avraham was different. Avraham became a Jew. He sought God. He found God. He served God. He had a disease, a terrible disease from birth called kindness. They call it codependency. Avraham Avinu couldn't help but be kind to people. He activated his religion. He preached his religion using kindness. He's the first Jew, right? But what's the mysticism of that? The mysticism of that is that Avraham Avinu had a neshama. So I hope you're listening to me, right?
I'm writing what you're saying.
Okay. He wasn't born with a neshama, right? But he died with a neshama, right? When and how did he get it? When, I can't tell you. But how, it says in the Medrash. He was looking for God, and God turned and looked at him. That's Lashon HaMedrash. Hitzitz Allah Ba'ala Bila. The host, the owner of the palace, looked in his direction. The Hasidus takes the word hitzit, which means to glance, and translates from the word spark. Okay, now listen carefully. What is the highest level of the neshama called? Yechida, that's feminine. It's in Kabbalah, that higher than Yechida is Yochid, which is masculine. And the spark of Yachid is called Nitzutz Bay, the spark of Creator. And the spark of Yechid is called Nitzutz Niv, the spark of creation. And when Hashem charged his Nitzutz Yechid with a extra current, extra jolt from Nitzutz Bay, that brings the Yechid down into his person, and that's what makes him Jewish.
His yechid. What was the word yechid?
Yechidah. The Yachid, without a hey, makes the Yechidah come down. And I believe that this is the process of Gedus, mystically. You have to understand, being a Jew has two basic parts, the Neshama and the Guf. And Matan Torah is really about the Guf. Avraham Avinu is really about the Neshama. So there's two parts to being a Jew and the process of becoming a Jew. But in terms of the Neshama side, that's how it's explained. It's a few lines in a Maimon that are controversial, because maybe people are going to say that I'm reading more intent into these words than they ever actually meant. But this is my opinion. Okay? You got it?
Yeah.
I listened to the Ami part, even though the Amy and Ami and Amy. It's part of my morning's preparation, because the time the class started. Each week I listen to the class before. I'm just letting you know that I listen. Okay. Are we good, Kinderlach? Yeah, go ahead, speak. Loud and clear.
Also connected to the T.
Yes. Yeah, similar idea, yeah. Tzitzis. Vasalam tzitzis, right? Asalam tzitzis. Then it says, Hakara psil techelis, then it's Vahoyo lachem tzitzis, and the word tzitzis 3 times. Each time it says the word tzitzis, it means something different. The third time it says the word tzitzis, it means a tool that allows you to see. What do you mean? The first time it tzitzis means a fringe. The second time it's a fringe that has blue in it. And the third time it's a fringe that allows you to see. Well, and they allow you to see. And what are you seeing? The spark. So the Rebbe continues. Das is the chilek zwischen Mila und Tvila navas karban. That's the difference between the second and third part of the bris, which is the circumcision and the immersion in the mikveh, which are devarim shabehem nichnus yisrael bris. Again, for the 57th time, the covenant is the nasav and ishma.
Then
The bris milah, the circumcision and the immersion of the mikveh, are the mitzvahs that give that covenant teeth. You don't do the mitzvahs, the covenant has no meaning. But the mitzvahs are not the covenant, they create the covenant. And then there's something else, which is not making the covenant, but you're missing it until you do it. And that's a korban. Why? Because you're not less Jewish if you only have a gil b'chid in your nose and not in your body. But it would be nice if it radiates your whole body. Let's read it.
where are we?
Last paragraph is 164. Milo tvis, the circumcision and the immersion of the mikveh. Hoil and knisas nefesh akedusha, the effect that the neshama should come into the guf. Period. Basically, the mila is asara sa'arla, it removes the blockages. Is emoitiv and tumas akub, takes him out of the uncleanness of goyim because he takes away the arla. Und die Tvila bringt him around the kedusha Yisrael. The mikvah brings you to the holiness of the. In other words, he's explaining that why you have to have both. The mila takes you away from the bad, and the mikvah brings you into the good. And I discussed with you last week already. It's very, very important to remind you of this. The Gemara says, "Isha command the mehi l'dam." A woman is born circumcised. We don't consider a woman missing the bris. And I told you last week that the nafkamina is that we don't wait 8 days to give girls a name, as some communities do. We give a girl a name as soon as she's born, because she doesn't have to wait 8 days because she's born with a bris. The bris takes away the blockage. The woman is born without a blockage. She comes into the covenant of mikvah and brings her into the holiness, and this even a woman. And we continue. Top of 165. As opposed to bringing the carbon, is a doirai nu'min Hashem. It's a gift and an offering to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is lastless lay nachas ruach, to give Hashem pleasure. It's not directly connected to your status; it's connected to the Eibushter status. Karba miloshen tirov, a sacrifice in the word means to bring close. Tirov akoycha is the akush, bringing close the faculties and the senses of a person. You know, the word does spoil the carbon effect, then tirov is an akecha to Eibushter and bringing close his individual faculties to Hashem. Inui Muhuth Shalai, changing his own substance. Shemakarver, that he brings him near. Muhus Ben Shekare Muhus, he becomes a son whose substance, character is similar to the substance and the personality of his father. In other words, the carbon doesn't make you Jewish. It makes you a healthy, makes you a complete. You're Jewish without the carbon makes you complete. Okay, let us break now, okay? The class is 45 minutes long. Let's break. Come back in 5, right? Okay, I can use a couple more if you're reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Let's the whole thing was how much it's not about just the Korban is completed the conversion, but now instead you just do it for. But the conversion is actually from this, changing this.
But the essence is enough. The essence is enough.
It's.
I wanted to you've done, I wanted it.
Oh,
Quote is.
no, the essence is complete without the carbon. Then bringing the essence down, is not. Bring it into your arms and legs.
Nothing to do about where you can do. But you change the quote.
Yes, I will change the code. Rabbi Paltiel.
If no one's gonna get me water, get me
No,
some
no, no,
water.
no, someone went.
Someone went.
She's a new student.
No, no,
Go on.
no, Lee's going, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm going.
Who's Lee?
Lee Moria.
Perfect. You asked my name 5 times.
Not 5, 50 times. Mashallah, you're fast, they can't chili.
Rabbi Paltiel,
Yes, sir.
I'd like permission for something.
I was so excited you asked my name and then you forgot about it.
We have a
You can't,
presentation.
and girls are very sensitive about these things, and my brain just don't work. Go ahead, Ziha.
We have a presentation where each chavrusa got given a like a different rebbe that they have to present.
Okay,
And me and my chavrusa got given the rebbe. So I was wondering if we could like pretend to do the class that you had and someone pretend to be you.
how does it involve me? That you're gonna make fun of me? Then why,
No.
why do I care? Go ahead, I'm good.
No, 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 not making fun of you, just
Whatever it
saying.
is, it's fine.
Fine, okay.
Mikate is a very long passion, it's a lot of stuff. Thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you. Mikate. Doesn't say a number, it has 146, it's not even the longest passion. Doesn't have a lot of Rashi here. So,
So the Korban just makes Hashem happy?
stick around, yeah, do me a favor, stick around. Stick around. It's Wednesday, today's Wednesday, right? Menashe and Ephraim were born yesterday,
Happy birthday.
yes.
Are you teaching us next Wednesday on Hanukkah?
We're losing Davis, never cost the whole school.
Oh, hey, Bailey.
You probably also broke. Oh, yeah, maybe I'll just read the story in Hebrew. Everything was out there, and they had that smoke.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I meant to say that I actually forgot the story, I just needed it, I need it like, in the format, because I thought we were practicing, I thought we were finalizing the script, that's what I meant. This afternoon I'll have to practice, I do have to finish writing.
I know, when do you leave?
No worry.
We could also just kind of wing it out, it could be fine. You sent it to
I'm
me.
happy to do Jeopardy, but then it just, does it flow?
No, I don't want to, cause I don't.
Well, we
It's
could
too
do,
many, it's too many
you know what we
gimmicks
could
and
do
I
about Jeopardy, we can do Jeopardy for like the beginning, for the.
No, I think it's too last minute, and too gimmicky. Like. Let's just leave it as it is.
You know Mrs. Goldstein, Mrs. Spritzer, there are judges.
Oh, I didn't realize how to feel about.
Yeah, well, they asked Mrs. Spritzer yesterday to be a judge, and Mrs. Goldstein already is.
What's the name?
Who arranged this class?
This we had Hannah for Yud Tes Kislev from the Mittler Rebbe's birthday in Histolkus until Yud Tes Kislev. And each day there was a different Rebbe. And then like everyone had a chavrusa, which was
Whose idea was it? Whose brainchild did this?
kind of the Madrakot / Rabbi Jusky.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then
whichever match
each
was-
girl got a chavrusa from a goyra, like you couldn't pick. And then you also got your like you had to do 10 days of learning about the Rebbeim, and then do
It's for new test.
yeah, and then whichever Rebbe you got was also, I think,
You're
goyra.
doing it ever.
Huh?
There's so much to do.
So we had the Mittler Rebbe.
Oh, the midlet Rebbe.
Yeah, we have the Mittler Rebbe, so that's why we were like, we should do that class, because
Which class?
the class that you gave to us.
You have to do it. I'm not gonna do it.
No, you're not doing it.
So what's the idea?
She just wants to imitate you in the beginning.
Okay.
I just want to walk in. Can I tell you what we're gonna do?
Tell what you're
We're
gonna
like, let's go back in time 12 days to Rabbi Paltiel's yearly class. It's 10:30 and we're coming into Machon Hadis. And like there's times where it's like you go back in time, you go blah, 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 and then it's like at the time it's 10:30, Rabbi Paltiel's about to walk in and like birds chirp. It's like because you're
do. I'm late.
and then it's like okay, let's fast forward 15 minutes when he walks in. It's like walking in and being like, good morning, class, sorry I'm early. And then in the middle we're gonna do the shtick with the coffee. I was like, oh, this is poison, and then make a bracha.
Okay. Well, you have fun. I understand these jokes that be in this class.
Yeah, well, we'll let you know if we win.
Ah, it's a competition,
Yeah, for a sofa.
but it's supposed to be outcome based. Everyone has to feel like they won.
Well, yeah,
Tonight,
that's what happened at
you mean it's not a competition, you know, it's gonna win.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of nice that at least someone's putting in effort, and that way it actually feels like a proper we feel like we're challenged
So-
when we win.
Yeah, right?
Last year for Yud Shvat we had color war, which was mitzvahs versus Torah. Guess what the outcome was?
Mitzvahs, I'm assuming.
No, everyone won. Are you kidding me?
Everyone won.
Both blue team and pink team
Yeah,
won.
that's cheap.
Torah was blue though, so they had like so many things like Torah water, Torah blueprint. Obviously, Team Torah was the best one because I was on Team Torah.
Oh, so you won. That's the most important thing.
No, we didn't, and we
What's more important, winning or not losing?
all got ice cream.
Winning.
I think it's a personality.
Wait, and you want to do it during lunch?
Maybe. Let's see what Memphis.
You together?
Let's do what?
See what Memphis doing. Yeah, fine.
Okay, people. Are you ready? Everyone's here. All five of you are back, right? All the five little mollies are here. Okay, listen.
Where's Basia? Is she not in this class? Okay, no, my turn. Yeah.
Let me begin with the following, okay? The Rebbe mentions Kavanas, and you were stuck on it. I'm going to answer you right away. Well, you asked me the question. There's a whole discussion. Kavanas is a big part of Torah. And if it's a big part of Torah, it's a big part of Chassidus. And one of the nicest composites of understanding Karbonis is the following. The carbon has two translations. Carbon means to sacrifice, and carbon means to bring close. And the philosophy is, first you sacrifice your animal, and after the animal has been sacrificed, the person emerges, and the person can be brought close. It's a philosophical schematic, if you will. First, you have to get the animal out of the way. You have to kill the animal, take out the blood and the fat. The passion and the pleasure. The passion is the blood, and the pleasure is the fat that you have to give away. To sacrifice the animal, and then the human being can emerge. Okay. So in Hebrew, carbon means to sacrifice, and carbon means kislev, to bring close. What we just read in the last couple of minutes of the first class was that carbon, the second translation of carbon, to bring close. So contextually, Rabbi Isai, the two definitions of carbon are consistent with the two themes that we have. You understand? The idea that gerus is an union of essence is connected to carbon, meaning sacrifice. And the idea that gerus means becoming Jewish in every aspect of yourself is connected to carbon coming close. And you have to do it in that order. First, sacrifice the animal, get the animal out of the way. That makes you a Jew in your essence. Once you've gotten the animal out of the way and you become a Jew in your essence, then you bring yourself close, where every part of your body, your right side of your brain, the left side of your brain, the back of your brain, the heart, the lungs, the spleen, the kidneys, the intestines, the hands, the feet, the fingers, the hair, skin, and nail. Every part of you is individually brought close to Hashem. You see the 2 points? That's the answer to your question. The first aspect of gerus is carbon, meaning to sacrifice. And the second aspect of gerus, I made the sacrifice, I became a Jew. Now I have to make myself Jewish in every part of myself by bringing my faculties, my koyches, my kush, my mind, my heart, my senses, and Jewifying them. Maybe now.
Yeah, and the first one is by doing it complete and without.
Right, correct. So now, I want to go back to how I introduced the last class. To the question of a person who is healthy versus a person who is a balmor. There's a series of Maimonides. There's a famous Maimon from Tzemach Tzedek in Derech Tesecha, who talks about why an animal and a human being that's a balmor is not allowed to be brought in the base of Mikdash. And there's Maimon from the later Rebbeim as well, from the Neverat Shab and from the Frierdiker Rebbe. There's a number of Maimonides that I know that talk to this very question. And that really, girls, is what the Rebbe said to the Nechei Tzahal, who the Rebbe called Mitzuyonei Tzahal, when they visited him in 1977, as I described to you in the first class, brief. What the Maimonides describe is as follows, okay? What's special about a person? Cheetahs run faster. Hyenas are more aggressive. Lions are stronger. Elephants have better memories. I don't know if that's true, but why not? Let's go with it. In other words, animals have individual traits that are far superior to humans in that particular field. Human beings cannot compete with animals in any trait where an animal is excellent. The human being is, he's slower, he's heavier, he's weaker, and his reflexes are slower. He's just in every way, he's less. What is special about human being? What's the answer to that question? Okay, that's the first answer. That's the first part of gerus. What's the second answer?
Every choice.
Okay, it's a pretty good way of framing it, but I'm looking for something else. The second answer is what makes human beings special is that they have every property, every quality. Some animals are exceptional in one way, but they can't do other things. Other animals are exceptional in another way, but they can't do the first thing. Human beings are defined by balance, by their blend. They have a mind, which makes them objective and cold. They have a heart, which makes them subjective and personal. They have reflexes, which allow them to respond to things spontaneously, instantaneously, right? They have senses that allow them to experience their world, the beauty, the sound, the smell, the taste, and so on, right? What makes human being special vis-a-vis animals, and to be sure, Hasidus would argue, it's not just their advantage of animals. It in fact makes them better than animals, is what we call hiskalalus, hitkalalus, that they include everything. Animals have one or two traits that they're good at, and each animal in those one or two traits is better at those things than a person will ever be. But, a fish can't climb a tree. A fish can't climb a tree. You've all heard that before, right? A human being is defined by being a composite of every trait. There's two quotes that assert this. One is a Medrash and one is a Rambam. The Medrash quote says that Adam is called Adam. Human beings are created from the highest level and the lowest level. On the high end, the human being is higher than angels. On the low end, the human being is lower than any animal. That's the Midrashi quote. And then Rambam's quote is lateral, across from right to left. Every human being has the most extreme kindness and the most extreme cruelty and everything in between within their system. They're not a swath, not a piece of the emotional panorama. They're the whole collection. We're not as kind as some animals are, but we're not as cruel as some animals. We're a composite. What makes us special is that we're a little bit of everything. Okay? Now, there's two parts to the specialness of a human being. There's the part that you mentioned. What's your name? Zissel. I forgot already, but thank you for telling me your name. Right? That you said, and there's the part that I'm adding. You spoke about the Pintalayid, right? I'm going to change it. I'm using a different word. The word Hasidus uses to describe the underside, the previous, the essence of a human being is the word ma, memhe. Like chochma koyach ma, memhe ma is the essence of a person. Ma means having a purpose to serve. It happens to work out that ma is numerically the equivalent of 45, as is Adam. Aleph Daled Mem is also 45. The base of a human being is ma. They have gates. Animals exist with their senses alone. Or human being underneath his senses has a purpose, a bittul to Hashem that serves. That's called ma. That underpinning or that foundation of ma gives the person the depth to create space within himself for every fact. Okay, now, what that means, people, is in a perfect world, and this world ain't perfect, each one of us would develop our mind maximally. We develop our skills in mathematics, in theoretical reason, abstract reasoning. We develop our mind in social sciences, in psychology, in sociology, in understanding people. We develop a mind to applied science, physics, chemistry, biology. And we develop our mind to understand God and the soul and Yiddishkeit. And they all fit into our brain, all those different areas of knowledge. Simultaneously, we would develop our heart to develop kindness and gentleness and precision, and to know when to be emotional and when to be strong and when to be kind. And now you're supposed to say the mandatory blah, 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 but there's nothing blah about that, okay? And every human being should develop every sense. Every artist should develop a skill in art. Every musician should develop a skill in music, which is the audio art, and so on. Every writer should develop a skill in writing, etc., etc., etc. And being human means developing every part of yourself completely. Developing every part of yourself completely. In the language of the Mishnah, of the Gemara, which works exactly into this idea. The Gemara says in Masechet Chagiga, Eizehu shaita, who is a fool? Kol ha'ma'abed ma. That same word ma, sheneistim. Anybody who wastes the ma that he was given, ma mem hey, that means the human being that you are. The bittul you are, the ability that the Eibusha gave you, not to juggle, but to integrate such a great variety of different areas. I talked to it earlier. The Rebbe, there's no better example of this than the Rebbe. I talked to you about David HaMelech. David HaMelech was a romantic. He was a gentle man who wrote poetry. And he was such a tough soldier. He was so tough. He killed so many people. And on top of all of that, he was the head of the Sanhedrin, with a master scholar. How does the person get all that into one? But the answer was, he was an Adam. The previous of Adam is ma, this bittul, the sense of service that allows you to create space within your paradise for all parts of yourself. And the chitzai is that you use every part of yourself. A human being who uses every part of himself completely is a whole human being. How many of such do you know? Get it? That's why we're not missing the carbon. That's what the carbon means. So let's approach it from this angle, okay? These men came to the Rebbe. And they were young and strong and fit, with incredible prospect and promise for life. And they were wounded in war. Some couldn't walk, some couldn't see. Some had other deficiencies. And they had to feel very bad for them. And had to feel filled with anger. And of course, one of the feelings that they describe is the feeling of abandonment and being pitied. People don't look at them like normal people, like never cases, and keep saying, yeah, we're going to take care of you, and they're a bunch of liars, they're not taking care of us, they wish we go away because we're a bad problem. And they came to see the Rebbe. And the Rebbe spoke to them very Rebbe-like, no emotion, just give a talk. And the content of his talk basically was simple. The Rebbe had a magic to say everything simple. It was not bad, it was so simple, but so unbelievable. The Rebbe said that in philosophy there's two ideas. There's quantity and quality. And that it's a basic human truth that a person who's lacking in quantity makes up for it in quality. The word that I use to support this idea is to be a compensator. I translate the word balchova when I'm in the mood of being weird as a compensator. What's a compensator means? A person who can't see hears much more than anybody else. And he feels more than anybody else. Because the other parts of his body adapt to provide him what is not available to him through his eyes. So the Rebbe spoke to these men, and he told them the Eibishter made this compensator, quantity and quality. And it's a basic human phenomenon. It's a fact of life. It's a biological truth that when you are lacking in one area, you compensate for that lack with a different area. It's just the way it's done. And in that other area, you're excellent. When chas v'shalom, you have a problem with your eyes, you develop hearing that a person who can see will never develop. So you're not balanced, you're not a whole person, you don't have all of your faculties, but you adapt. You use the faculties that you have remaining more than you would ever use if you had all your faculties. Meaning to say, and don't say this the wrong way, you're going over from the other model to the behemoth model. How did I start this conversation? What makes people special is that they're a little bit of everything. When a person is not a little bit of everything, they become very good at something. And that's wonderful, but it's not a person. So the Rebbe spoke to these men, and he said to them, you're not the Chei Tzahal, you're not the wounded of Tzahal. You are the Mitsuyanei Tzahal, you're the outstanding in the Tzahal. The Rebbe didn't tell them they're healthy without legs. He didn't agree with my friend from California. They're just another kind of normal. But what the Rebbe said to them is, you are using the part of yourself that still work more than other people do. And in those areas, you're exceptional. And you will be successful using that overachieving faculty or series of faculty. So the Rebbe therefore proposed that instead of calling them invalids, call them, the Hebrew word is outstanding, but I think the correct word is compensated. You're making up for a lack in one area with another area. This is what the Rebbe said to them. And they felt very understood by the Rebbe. They really did. I watched the video, listened to the tape, and the tone of the Rebbe was not, he wasn't trying to patronize them. He didn't cry when he talked. He spoke to them in a monotone, as the Rebbe always spoke, not a very high voice, monotone in Hebrew, in Ashkenazic Hebrew, without the Havara. And he explained to them how he understands their future, that they're missing stuff. And instead of lamenting the stuff that they're missing, they should make up for the stuff that they're missing, the things, the other areas of it. You with me so far? This is how Chassidus explains why a Balmum cannot serve in the Beis Hamikdash. Judaism has two models. There's two models. And let's use the classic words, the tzaddik model and Balchula model. The tzaddik model, Balchula model, is, amongst other things, the Beis Hamikdash model versus the Golus model. Okay, the Maimonim that talk about this juxtapose it between Yom Kippur and Purim. Yom Kippur and Purim are both about the Goydel, they're both about the essence. But on Yom Kippur, it's all about balance, and Purim, it's all about extreme. The Maimonim that explain what I'm telling you are Maimonim that speak about Yom Kippur versus Purim, or Esther versus Sodom. That's the way it plays out. Sodom is like Yom Kippur, and Esther is like Purim. That's how the Maimonim go. So, halacha is a person who's an invalid cannot do avoid in the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because the Beis Hamikdash is made for people. I'm not a person. You're outstanding. So in some ways, you're better than a person. In some ways, you're less than a person. You're not a person. So the correct answer to the question, is how should an invalid view himself, is not he's a different healthy, a different normal. He's an invalid. He's an invalid because if Hashem made human beings to have legs and your legs don't work, you're missing something that the Eibush gave you. On the other hand, you utilize the other parts of your body to compensate for the losses that you have in the parts of the body that don't work, and in those areas you're exceptional. It's like it's about Tshuva and Tzaddik. Who's higher? Of course, the Baal Tshuva is higher. But which Baal Tshuva wouldn't want to be a Tzaddik? And part of the reason is because the Tzaddik is normal. Baal Tshuva is extreme. What's the normal of the Tzaddik? Doesn't do one mitzvah 1,000 times. He does every mitzvah in the time and space and with the right body parts and with the right artifacts that you're supposed to do them because he's got them all. And that's the interface between the two ideas of Yiddishkeit. And like I said to you before, on the highest level, Yom Kippur represents the Beis Hamikdash on the highest level, which is wholeness and perfectedness and completeness in the temple. Purim, which is a Yom Tov with half nine of Golus, is also Goydel, the extreme, but it comes out through Mesilas Nefesh and Tshuva, not through normal. And therefore, Chassidus says there's a time and place for everybody, but the Beis Hamikdash is for the other, not for the behemoth, for the balanced one, not for the extreme one. You with me?
Yeah.
So the Rebbe says, balance b'chlal and Golus doesn't exist. Like I told you at the very beginning of the last class, but you can only keep 86 mitzvahs aseh, 238. So if you're not a Geir, you're also a Geir. If you live in times of Golus, you can't bring Kabbanas either. The Geir has to bring a special carbon to allow him into the Beis Hamikdash, right? What about the rest of us? We can't Kabbanas either. Why not? Because the philosophy that sets the stage for Karbanis is Karbon Loshen Kiruv. Not carbon meaning to sacrifice, carbon meaning to bring close. And to bring close, you have to bring all of you close. To bring all of you close, you have to utilize all of you. Who utilizes all their faculties? Who says, God gave me a skill in art, I developed it. God gave me a skill in music, I developed it. God gave me a skill in dance, I developed it. God gave me a great mind, I developed it. God gave me a great mouth, I developed it. Who can say that? Nobody can. Because we're in Golus. Now you could make a case that in the areas where we dedicate ourselves, we're better than what the other would be. But Adam, it's not. Adam means balance. This, girl, is what the Rebbe is explaining. But this circumcision and immersion in the mikveh makes you a Jew on the level of your essence. The carbon makes you not just a whole Jew, but a healthy Jew. There's no whole and healthy in times of Golus for anybody. Not just if you're a Gade, if you're a Gesh, FFB with 44 Bs. I don't know how many Fs. You can't win a carbon. Because the trademark of Golus is compensation. The trademark of Golus is the theme of Tshuva. So the Gade who becomes a convert during the Golus is no different than anybody else. It's just that he never brought his first carbon. And it's the first carbon which brings you close and makes you healthy and whole in your relation with Hashem, which means you use every one of the 248 limbs to serve Hashem, each one differently. So when Mashiach comes, he owes the Eibush a carbon, but it doesn't undermine the Geirus. It doesn't undermine the Geirus. It just means that he's missing this dimension of Yiddishkeit. This girl, if you think about it, is gorgeous. It's such an incredibly beautiful explanation. It's the evidence. I'm just teaching. How could you be a complete Yid and be missing a carbon? And the answer is, how can you be a complete Yid and not bring a carbon and goes? How can you be a complete Yid, but you can only keep 1/3 of all the mitzvahs? The answer is you compensate. You do the mitzvahs more, you do the mitzvahs better, you do this mitzvah level of tshuva, but other mitzvahs. And the same is with the Gayim. So the Rebbe says nothing wrong with the Gayim. Mashiach is going to come, and the possibility for quote normal will reemerge. For those people who are not Gayim, the Gayim will bring the carbon, which brings him into the normal. Wonderful. It's so wonderful. It is so wonderful. And once the Rebbe says it, it's so simple and obvious. That's the thing, you know. Before the Rebbe says it, you're never going to get through it. Why do you have to call me in class? Can't talk now. What's up? I don't even know who it was.
Yeah.
The New Jersey, just the whole state, New Jersey, just called. Questions or comments? Go ahead.
If we're like all in a similar state that the guys in, like we're not all of us are complete, then why doesn't everyone bring korban when we show?
Because we already brought it when we became Gadim and have seen it. We lost it and we get it back. But you don't need to have the initial korban that represents not your sacrifice. You're bringing near the second dimension. After you sacrifice the animal, you bring the person near. You never participated in that ritual. So you're going to have to bring that ritual to be able to enter into the Beis HaMikdash. Because the Beis HaMikdash is defined by health, normalcy, balance. And until the Ger does that, they're not letting him in. You understand? Ludwig City.
Jersey City.
That was actually Florida. It's two different people. Or two different phone lines, probably what it is. You know what? We don't pick up one number, try a different number, you know? Let's go. Let's go. Let's do.
15 minutes before she comes knocking.
Yeah, what time is it? Oh, let's keep reading. Let's do for the top of 165 again. If anybody accused me of being, born, bred, and brainwashed, I am absolutely guilty of that. I love the Rebbe. I revere the Rebbe, but not just in a kind of holy way. It's in a very personal way. I grew up around him. As a child, I stood behind him. You would look at them when they were children. But the Rebbe's Torah is so wonderful. But this Sikha it's beyond. It's so beautiful. It resolves the issue so comprehensively. It just fixes the problem. The questions are very difficult, and the solution is so glad. It's just wonderful. Let's read it again. The bringing of the carbon is the doiroin umincha Hashem lasas nachasuach. It's not the carbon that you're bringing because you did a sin. It's not the carbon that you're bringing to bring a sacrifice. It's the carbon they're bringing a gift to give Hashem pleasure. And what is the carbon? To bring yourself close. Carbon miloshin kiru, the second dimension of carbon, not the first one. You're bringing yourself near. Kiru v'akoyches v'achushim. You're bringing close your faculties and your senses. And of course, the key word is you're bringing them all close. Not just your brain, all of you. Das poil den kiru von seine koyches. It affects the bringing close his faculties. And again, I'm adding that word, all of his faculties. A mensch, Adam, ma, zum Eibishtin. To God Almighty, the changing of the substance of his form. The word Mahus here makes me a little bit nervous. The changing of the substance of your form. That means to say of your details. Shemakar, they're bringing you close. Mahus ben, you become the substance of a child, which is called the Mahus of it. Near the substance of his father, meaning you're in the image of the father. And the image of God's a healthy and a whole image. God is a great musician and a great artist and a great dancer and a great poet and a great writer. And a great scholar, a great intellectual, a great scientist, and he can do them all. And there's no contradictions. Why? Because he's God. I ain't God. Yeah. But what makes you another is that you use every one of your parts to the best of your ability.
No question.
Okay.
So when a guy, like when a convert is davening from a Mashiach. Does that mean that like within their tefillas they should be including because I want to bring my korban? And then does that mean that like they obviously don't feel it, like because we're living in Gullus and we're living in a sense of like desensitization. Or I'm saying like, have you ever heard of this thing called, what's it called? When someone like loses their leg and then they think they still have the leg and then they have pains in it. You know what I'm talking about? It's called phantom limb. Like does this mean like after learning the Sikha, a person that's recently converted is going to start having like phantom limb and being like, I feel bad. Why'd you feel bad? Because I haven't brought my korban. And then it's like how much does this really affect the life that we're living in Gullus? Okay, but then but maybe I'm starting something. Maybe I'm then encouraging them to start thinking like this. Like it's
I'm not gonna be able to answer you because I'm not a convert.
Okay.
I got another problem. I can't remember her name.
That's my problem.
It's a problem. It's a problem. It's a symptom of growth. It's exactly the same problem the guy's got. Like he's got an animal they have to deliver to fix it. I just need Mashiach to come by itself, it'll be enough. But you know what? It's not that big a difference. Honestly. You're asking a question about human nature. And the answer to your question about human nature is you gotta ask the gate if you want.
I don't know. I just feel like you're drawing attention to someone. I just feel like you're drawing attention to someone.
I'm explaining it. I'm going to see.
No, I know.
Explaining it. You're making it personal and emotion, which is okay. But I can't help you.
Wait, just to clarify, you said that, let me see, you said that you would use Shinur Mahut then detailed actually?
Over here, Shinabus doesn't mean yes. It means the form of the
That's why I got confused. Okay.
Confusion is a sign of intelligence.
Okay.
Now keep reading. Val Pizeh, human the chiluk divisions. Man, abayis man agos man azeh. Just forget the gate. Judaism. What is the difference between? See, what I told you is written here. What is the difference in Judaism the times of the Beis Hamikdash, in Judaism the times of the Advent and the Golos? Bezman abayis beklal. In the times of the Beis Hamikdash in general. Is V'shachanti B'Seich. Hashem lived in the house with us. And they were Asada Nisim Nasu Beis Hamikdash V'chol. There were 10 miracles which took place in the Beis Hamikdash, etc. Which means Gilia Lakus, godliness was revealed. And as a consequence, are you listening? Is the avoider for Yidden devil. The way Yidden served Hashem in a place where Hashem is revealed and things are. I'm going to use a really bad word, okay? So if you're sensitive, put your fingers in your ears. Normal. Normalna. Okay. Avoidance Hashem was using your faculties, not making Mesiras Nefesh. Use your brain, use your heart, use every one of them. It was defined not by the sacrifice you made, but by the wholeness of your Jewish identity. Hagiluyim that are revealed, of Pnimim that are internal. Every piece of you has to serve Hashem. Havana v'asogin get l'chai, to understand Hashem. Avas Hashem v'yiraseh, to love Hashem and fear Hashem. V'chulu, etc. You know what that etc. includes? 245 other mitzvahs. 245 other organs and limbs. Every part of the person has to be utilized maximally. I have a friend who had an uncle who was a roommate of the Rebbe in Leningrad 100 years ago. In 1920. And his name was a Folen. He lived in Leningrad all the years. He came to the Rebbe in the late 80s. He didn't leave Russia. He was a sheikh. He was clean shaven, but he was a tzaddik. All the Russian shachtim learned shechita from him. He's a very special man with a lot of chassidim, considered nefesh yid. And low key made nothing of himself. But this Folen was my friend's great uncle, his father's uncle. And he roomed in the Rebbe. He had a room, they shared a room. They paid rent together. He says he almost never saw the Rebbe because when he slept, the Rebbe wasn't sleeping. When the Rebbe slept, he wasn't sleeping. And they almost never crossed paths. But there was this big joke about the Rebbe. The Rebbe was in his mid-20s, early 20s. And the Rebbe's curiosity was not normal. He had to know everything. If you introduced to the Rebbe anything new, he would study it until he mastered it. But it took him like 2 seconds. A brain. So he walks into the apartment one day, probably a studio, one room, and the Rebbe was sitting on the bed, studying shorthand. What shorthand means?
No.
Where instead of writing out a letter, you make a symbol, a line, a curve, a dot, a circle, so that you can write very quickly. Using shorthand, you can write as quickly as people speak, and that was practicing. So it was like their running joke, oh, here you go again, wasting your time doing something nonsensical. And the Rebbe says to him in Yiddish, "Das wird mir euch zu nützen. One day I'm going to need this too. Every piece of information I can get, I'm going to collect, and I'm going to use it." It's a messianic kind of person. It's a geula kind of person. It's a healthy kind of person. It's what's being described here as happening in the Beis Hamikdash. But the Rebbe was one of the generation. He's the Rebbe. The rest of us, we could barely stay in school and study 3 subjects to get marks. Too much. So the times of the Beis Hamikdash are not defined by sacrifice. They're defined by to use the English expression, filling ourselves out, and becoming fat. Using every part of you, every part of you. Right? Or the Father, therefore, is euch die Kniese lebris von a Geir. In the times of the Beis Hamikdash, when a Geir goes through conversion, it's be'ofen gezeh, it's the kind of way, as the Dav saying the minion from carbon, you also need the sacrifice. But carbon doesn't mean sacrifice here. Carbon means kiruv hakadosh here. You see? In the times of the Beis Hamikdash, it's possible for Jews to be whole, balanced, whole. Use every aspect of themselves and fill it with whatever life is associated with that organ and that limb. In that world, you need a carbon to make yourself into a convert. You become a yid by doing the circumcision and the immersion in the mikveh. But you become a yid that's manifest, that comes on all your arms and your legs, your fingers and your toes by bringing the carbon. One more paragraph. As the times of exile, on the other hand, you look inside, and there's no miracles, there's no signs from Hashem. Hashem is very hidden. But the Iker HaAvodah is in the times of Golus, what matters. I'm going to use a word that he doesn't use: sacrifice, extreme, polarity. Go to the top of the second column, 165. The Asiya B'Poyel, doing what we're told. Und dem Bittel und Ewigkeit zu Eibishter. It's not about transforming yourself into a divine being. It's nullifying yourself. I don't know how to translate Bittel in English. And dedicating yourself to the Eibishter. In other words, Kabbalah Nefesh, accepting the yoke of heaven and making sacrifices for Hashem. So that in that world, nobody's whole. It has a maila, just like a cripple can hear better than a person who can see. Just like a blind person can hear better than a person who can see. In this man agos, we compensate for a lack of wholeness by being exceptional in 1 or 2 or 3 areas. Aber a mensch is nicht. It's not other. Verstehst? So the Rebbe says the Ger is not missing the carbon. He's not missing the carbon. Doesn't need it. Why? Because his life is not defined by what normal is, which is carbon on the base of Mikdash. The Rebbe accordingly is by a Ger, also by a convert. Tut uf. The etzem nefesh hakadosh, the entry into his life of the essence of the neshama. By doing circumcision, by immersion in the mikveh, a full ständiger Geir. It's a complete Geirus conversion. Verbund mit Nebishting Hashem, Loi Mechser Klal. He's not missing anything. This is where the Rebbe's argument on the Shabbat. He's not missing anything. He owes the carbon, and he's not missing anything. Why? Because the carbon doesn't make him more of a convert. The carbon makes him more of a Jew. And we're also missing it. We're in the same
What do you mean
boat.
we're missing it, but we gave it a Matan
So
Torah?
we gave it, but we don't have it. We gave it already, and we're missing it. The Mashiach comes, we'll go back to the carbon that we gave, we'll get it back. But in terms of the point, we're exactly in the same place. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's so zissel. It's so deep. Your name is Zissel, right? You see, I remember. I wasn't sure I had to ask. It's so sweet. Such a beautiful, beautiful sikh. It's so beautiful. And this really is chassidus. Mamish chassidus. It's where chassidus explains why I'm a monk and being a carbon. It's a different. There's 2 kinds of Yiddishkeit. The base of Mikdash represents 1 kind of Yiddish. But the Rebbe is saying it as nigle, oneness. Okay, I'll see you. Happy Hanukkah and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Next Wednesday is the New Year's. Huh?
Huh?
Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah.
So I finished. Okay.